Srinivasji, take up from the question that you have raised. See, uh, uh, it's easier for me because I want to just round it off and take to the second part of the conversation to go in this direction. So the question was, see, we started off saying that why take Western culture seriously? Because it began with the question that Balu introduced. How does the world look if we look from our way? Now, from there we have come, and why it is important to study Western culture. And we also reversed it, to understand Western culture, how it is important to look at Indian culture. Now, in this comparative project, a lot of issues have been sort of discussed in terms of language, experience, the question of political theory. All these things have sort of addressed. So, in which, for example, of the questions that have been sent, almost 60% of the questions have answers there. Now, if we can, I mean, they have to find them. They're available. They can get back to us. We can get into conversation later. So now in the last part, the question came. Okay, so far we spend more time thinking about Europe, and now let's focus on what Indian texts were talking about. This Raja, Varna Sankara. Even some people even have posted this question about this. What is this idea of Iha and Para? I think, I mean, these questions put together brings us to the point where uh, it shows in which direction the research program is going to go further. That is the second part that we wanted to sort of discuss from where pick our thread. So this is what the kind of quick wrap up that I wanted to do, so that we can go in this direction. But before Balu could respond, Srinivasji, I think you have been deprived of an opportunity to ask question. You have a lot of questions, so I think you should flag your questions first, and then from there we can go further.
Of course, somebody is pointing out that the question about Raja and Praja needs to be addressed. I'm sure that will be addressed. But yes, I also wanted to raise one question. Thank you for giving an opportunity. Of course, I could understand the discussion about language and terminology is only to point out that certain words have a deeper cultural contexts, and they're more or less like terminology which carry a lot of meaning. And it is only being brought to people's consciousness that one has to use those words carefully. And knowledge consists in understanding the cultural context of those words and not just using them as a replacement for something that they understand locally. So the same holds for Sanskrit terms as well, because of the loss of transmission of knowledge and the loss of the context in which the Sanskrit terms were used because of the political social changes that have happened in the country. We have to also pay attention to what the specific words really mean to be able to have access to the knowledge that these words are referring to. Now, this part of it I could understand. But my question is that, so when you're talking about colonial consciousness, and when you're claiming that there is a break in transmission of knowledge, you're surely saying that only for a small section of the people, and not the whole population, of the country. So, what is this colonial consciousness? How does it spread? What is the medium of infecting people across the country? Now, and when, let's say, the Sringeri Matha says that they've had unbroken transmission of the Guru Parampara, of course, you address this issue in the fourth chapter of What It Means to Be Indian book. So, are you claiming that their claim is false, that they don't actually have an unbroken tradition of teaching in the Matha? Similarly, for those people who have probably never spoken a word of English language in their lives, and probably don't deal with the politics and day-to-day politics, but are completely within a frame of knowledge that they limit themselves to, are you claiming that they're also afflicted by this colonial consciousness?
You asked me? You want me to start the conversation? Okay. First, I want to make a remark about the last two sessions and about the coming session. See, in a way, because it was a retrospective, the last two sessions, it meant indicating the different domains and different disciplines we are touching upon or investigating into. There are two ways of doing it. One is to say, try and summarize our results. It faces a difficulty that it's difficult to understand. The first difficulty. Second is, it becomes a dry preaching, sermon, lectures. And that is not what we need today, because this is a second element to that, prospect, namely, how do we go forward? So in a way, we have been, at least I have been, for trying to indicate the domains, and in fact, I touched on many domains, but in a light way. That is, trying to make weak attempts at jokes. There's a reason for that, because now I want to shift the discussion to a different level, much more serious. Not that we were not serious before, much more focused than the last two sessions. Now, it'll become a bit heavy because of that, but it's my hope that the shift in the character, level of discussions, leaves you only with this idea that there is serious research occurring at multiple domains, incorporating many dimensions, to understand which you have to do some serious work yourself. You will not understand physics or chemistry, physics, all the domains of physics, some domains of physics, by a summary of the story in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and so on. All we can hope is to realize how broad, how big, how vast the domains of knowledge are. And the best way to do it is to lighten it. And that is the first two sessions, because it's prospective. It is retrospective when you look back. So I try to play the role of the grandfather. That's what I always looking back and telling how it was in his time. Prospective is about your future. So we're going to go a little bit to another plane, much more serious, much more focused. I hope you'll be with us. So with this, that is going to give the tone to the how I'm going to answer and respond to Srinivas. Let's begin with the question. Let's begin with the following remark. Our research includes colonial consciousness. But there's only one element in the research we're doing. It's not the focus or the goal of the research to do research on colonial consciousness. Why do I say it? Because one of the questions that participants raised is to say that our research takes side story further, and there were some questions regarding the side story and our story. Actually, a story has very little to do with science. In fact, almost nothing. We are not telling a story of Orientalism. In fact, we have problems with that story, very serious problems. But Sayyid did something good, some good work in the sense that he tried to show that the way West looked at Arab countries, basically, but today it's to all countries, exhibits a certain kind of pattern in descriptions. He did not say what the pattern in the description was, except say it is Eurocentric, racist, and so on, misogynist, etc., etc. And he did not tell us why that pattern comes into existence. He didn't tell us why it sustains itself. He did not tell us how it reproduces itself. He didn't tell us how it expands. In other words, we do not have any knowledge of what Orientalism is. It's just a word. Same thing for things like Eurocentrism. Western social sciences are Eurocentric. What exactly is being talked about? How do you make it what? India-centric? I mean, is it possible to say physics is Eurocentric? If it is not possible to do that, but it is possible to do that for knowledge about human beings, then it follows necessarily that you cannot have knowledge of human beings. Because knowledge is knowledge. If you have knowledge about human beings, it applies to the Americans, to the Europeans, to the British, to the Africans, to Indians, and so on. So either we have knowledge, in which case calling it Eurocentric doesn't tell us anything. It's like saying, Einstein's theory emerged in Germany, therefore it's Germanocentric or Eurocentric. No, it could be okay, fine. So the problem is to speak about Orientalism, Eurocentrism, racism, misogynism, sexism is characteristic of Eurocentric discourse. It will get you a job in Columbia University. Sure. But it won't give you any knowledge about human beings. And the first and the most important thing, which in my introduction I spoke about, is that our research is following, tracking now, in the root of knowledge and develops knowledge and can be tested exactly the way we just natural sciences. They're the only examples we have of knowledge. So, it's important to know this because this is related to the question, what is colonial consciousness? Because people think when I speak of, or when we speak, or a research program speaks about colonial consciousness, we're talking about how Indians and colonized subjects experience, feel things in the world. No, colonial consciousness is also how colonial masters think, experience about the world, which means colonization impacts not just the colonial subjects, it does it in one way, but also colonial masters, which does it in another way. So colonial consciousness in this sense, what we are talking about, what we are doing research on, is about how colonization affects, in a very deep sense, everybody in this world, the masters and the subjects included. So, therefore, what is colonial consciousness, if you, in simple terms, if you want, is how we in the last 300-400 years, in different ways, we are looking at the world, describing it, working in it, changing it, experiencing it. And what is the result? Well, all we have to do is look at today's world. 21st century, we have more poverty and hunger than before. After the Second World War, 21st century, the world is full of wars. Suffering is increasing. Aggression is increasing. Pain is increasing. Poverty is increasing. Disease is increasing. At a time when in the 21st century, we are supposed to be developing knowledge, science, technology, and I don't know what else. Today, how people are reacting and talking about COVID-19 is an example of that. The alternative news, the alternative facts, post-truth world is an example of that. This is colonial consciousness. That's what we're living. So instead of, and what does it mean? It's in Indian terms, in simple terms. What colonial consciousness has done is this. It has elevated ignorance to the level of knowledge on the one side, and on the other side done something which we really call a jnana in Indian traditions, which in certain Advaita tradition is called papa, which is presenting truth as knowledge. We use the word bullshit. When we use it, we mean that. When truth is presented as knowledge, then you're bullshitting. Why? Because If truth is presented as knowledge, what happens is truth prevents the emergence of knowledge. It's not a theoretical claim. Take a simple example, my favorite example. I suppose you have children. So let's say you send them to university. Let's say they want to teach you about anthropology, sociology, whatever, of a people, say India or Belgium. Say take India. And your child is interested, you are interested, and you go and send your child a lot of money to a university like JNU. Now here is what happens in JNU. It's not happening, right? So just I'm giving you an example. So what does a JNU professor do? Urban anthropology. So he'll give you a telephone book of Delhi city and asks your child to memorize. And that's exam. Sociology. They give you telephone books of all Indian cities. Make a child learn it, meaning memorize it by heart, exam. And you ask your child, what are you learning? And he says, urban anthropology and social anthropology in India. So what do you learn there? Well, we are learning, memorizing telephone books. Ask yourself the following question. Would you think JNU is teaching knowledge to your child? Would you be willing to pay money for your child to sit and learn telephone books? And practical experience, that's computational word, ICT must be taught. So your children are taught how to produce telephone books. Why would you object? I tell you why you should not object. Is not every single statement in a telephone book true? They are teaching your child truths. Why are you objecting? In other words, what do we see there? This is a silly example. But if you go deeper into social sciences, anywhere in the world, this is what they teach. Partial truths, some truths. But they're like telephone books. Well, we call them factoids. So, teaching truth, if that is what we want an education system to do, if truth is so important, well then, this university, JNU, teaching telephone book, production of telephone books, is teaching truth and therefore it's giving knowledge. So, if you're for truth, if you say you're searching for truth, surely that must satisfy you. But it doesn't. Satisfies nobody, in fact. So, raise the next question. Is search for truth important or not? Satyanveshana, searching for truth. Here's a strange, look at the strange situation we are in. If you look at the television and read the newspapers, in two countries, at least in two countries in the world, the top leadership is described as maniacal liars. Donald Trump, there is called a fact-checking machine. No, not a machine, fact-checking human being. Every day following the tweets of Donald Trump to note down how many lies he has told. He is one of the greatest liars on earth. Boris Johnson is no different. Exactly the same. Everybody, I'm not calling it, they're saying it. They are liars. They continuously tell the truth, lies. They don't tell the truth. So two cultures, you see, two countries, part of that Western culture, which says truth is most important thing on earth, elects, supports enjoys absolute liars as a political leadership. So much so that the dictionaries talk about a post-truth world. It's not part of dictionary, Oxford English Dictionary. Alternative facts, alternative news, fake news. Oh, nobody seems to have a problem. Because if you do, in America, you're a Democrat, anti-Trump. You have it in England, that's because you're anti-Johnson, anti-conservatives, you're with the Labour. How come the population is not shocked by this? That lying is the most supreme value in a culture which claims, Western culture, this is not limited to England or America, which claims we must search for truth, science search for truth. What is going on? What is it that we want our children to learn when we send them to schools and colleges? Learn truth? Everybody today in India more and more talks about Satyanveshana, Satyameva Jayate, and so on and so on and so on. But actually in our languages, if you look carefully, that's not what we want. Jnanarjane. We want knowledge. What are you doing? I'm searching for jnana, not for truth. Not for truth. Because what is truth? Sentences about the world. That's true. That's the only thing can be true or false. Science is not a set of true sentences. Please take a scientific theory and see how many true sentences exist. Simple thing. Even go to Euclid's geometry, which you have learned in school. Take a theorem, look at the proofs, and tell me how many true sentences there are in that theorem. So, physics, same thing. Logic, same thing. So any science we go to, it doesn't consist of sentences which are true. Half the sentences are not understandable if you don't have the technical definitions and theorems proved and iterations of the theorems. You want to understand? This is knowledge. One step. I'm going to answer the question. I'm taking one step back. A search for truth is so important. Supreme value, according to all philosophers here. We value truth. Epistemic value of truth. No philosopher asked the question, why do you believe in truth? Except one fellow, poor guy, Nietzsche. He went crazy. He asked, why truth? Why not untruth? That doesn't matter. Forget Nietzsche. If you say, why do you believe in it? It's true. That's okay. As well as a reason to believe. Now, there's no justification required. If it's true, it's fine. It is the ultimate justification for accepting some statement as about being about the world. But there is a strange thing. If you know the Bible, especially the New Testament Bible, the Gospels, Roman prefect Pilatus, or Pilate, as they call it, asked a very strange question to Jesus Christ of Nazareth. The question was, what is truth? Wait for 1 second. Think. Pilate is an intelligent man, administrator. He knows 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. He knew that Rome had an emperor. So he knew, therefore, if somebody were to come and the Jews had no king. If somebody had come and told Pilatus that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, he would say, what rubbish. That's not true, he would have said. In that case, why did he ask the question, what is truth, to Jesus? And read Jesus' response. Go to the Bible and take a look at it. What was Pilate trying to say? What were they talking about? Because you see, in Christianity, Judaism, Islam, the Semitic religions, don't call them Abrahamic religions, please. They are Semitic religions. God is the truth. So searching for truth is important. Only value to human beings, because the only reason to exist on earth is to seek God, Christian God, Jewish God, Muslim God, or biblical God. So searching for truth was important and primary because of that. So truth has a value because of that. And when Christianity begins to go backward in a culture, like it is the case today, the idea truth is important remains, but it's of no significance. Look at UK, look at USA, look at Europe. Liars are elected, unpopular, not truth, whatever that might mean. So when you therefore send your child to JNU to teach telephone books, you would be right in saying, look, I am not sending my children to learn truth. I'm sending them to have knowledge. That is India. That's Indian culture, not truth. And as I said, I think in the chapters, you must realize we are supposed to have 33,000 crore gods. And I always wonder who the hell counted it, but let's say somebody did count 33,000 crores. Let's say we have them. So we've got for almost devatas, right? So for everything. But there is no God or goddess of truth. Well, but for knowledge, Saraswati. Not God and goddess of truth. We don't have it. For knowledge, yes. What do we respect? Knowledge. So there is no Satyanveshana. That's Bhakwas. There is Jnananjana, search for knowledge. Now, why is this important? Well, let's go back to JNU example. What is preventing your child from learning knowledge? Truth. Telephones, true statements. Just set of true statements in geography doesn't teach your child about geography at all. That is why we are taught to learn things by heart. Colonial consciousness, to answer Srinath's question, has, among other things, this: subordinate knowledge to truth. Subordinate. India, it's the other way around. Truth is subordinated to knowledge. Knowledge is always true. But not everything that's true is knowledge. We know that from experience. But everything that's knowledge is true. There can be no such thing as false knowledge. But truth is not always knowledge. Not every truth is knowledge. Therefore, Indian culture said, we seek knowledge. And they realized, and they saw that whereas ignorance is the precondition for truth, for learning, for knowledge, truth will block the emergence of knowledge if truth is presented as knowledge. If telephone guide is presented as knowledge to a student, you will pull your child out of that university, top elite university, because that's not knowledge. Truth preventing knowledge is what we call bullshit, milder term in Hindi, bakwas, and that is what is dominating in colonial consciousness. So, that is why when they write about India, when they write about Europe, we talk so much bakwas. It is not a question of meaning of words. It's not a question of technical words. There are words in that use the word theories about the world, about human beings, that is a part of knowledge. Issue is not one of translation of those words. Issue is one of acquiring that knowledge. So the tragedy of the last 300, 400 years of colonialism is, in colonial world, truth begins to block more and more emergence of knowledge. Truth is presented as knowledge. Colonial subjects, amongst other things, we come and tell in our universities. We tell this bakwas. Go to sociology department, go to philosophy department, go to any social science department, ethics. In India, bakwas is sold as knowledge. One more example before I round off the answer to that question. Consider, we think we all know what ethics and morality is, right? Intuitively, at least. We think we know. We think we know what, for example, otherwise we wouldn't speak about justice, injustice, justice, social justice. We wouldn't be speaking about that. Moral, immoral, we wouldn't be speaking about. We think we know all these things. And, in fact, we think we know what it means in English, and in German, and in French, and in Dutch, and now, what philosophers and moralists, especially logicians, have done in the last 25 years is this. What exactly, when do we recognize a statement as an ethical or a moral statement? They said, when we use the word ought, moral ought, it is a moral statement. It's a value statement. So the next step was, all right, what does ought, what are its logical and semantic properties of this ought? So there is a huge domain, very interesting, called Deontic logic. Deontic, referring to, means one of the meanings of it is moral or ethical. So logic of ethics, logic of morality, Deontic logic. And they started analyzing the properties of words like it is forbidden, it is recommended, it is compulsory or obligatory. So what are the properties of these words? And so have developed. Today there is a consensus about it, 40 years of research. Why is this important to us? Suppose you come with that to look at Indian languages. Sanskrit to Bhojpuri. We discover something very, 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 very strange. There is no way on earth, not just in India, so whole of Asia, are we able to express the following statement: you ought not to kill. Moral ought. They cannot say it. How will we say it? You should not kill. How do we know that? Very simple. Take two sentences. You should not drink that water. It's not ought. It says you should not because you're going to get sick. You should not, you should not kill. Sentences are exactly the same. You cannot differentiate. There's no way of differentiating. You should not sleep with your head to the north, I was told as a child, because if you do, Ganesha is still looking for a human head. Okay, because he's got an elephant head, so if you sleep with your head to the north, they'll cut it off and he'll take us. So don't sleep with your head to the north. I believed it, of course. You should not sleep. Same sentence. You should not drink the glass of water. You should not kill. You should respect your parents. Every single, I don't know many Indian languages. I know about 5, 6. I don't know many Asian languages. In fact, I hardly outside of India, I don't know any Asian language, because when I speak in Chinese, nobody understands it except myself. So, that apart, here is my claim. Not one single Asian language, including Indian, would be able to say the following sentence: you ought not to kill. You should not drink water. Two different sentences, impossible. What follows from that? We cannot talk about ethics and morality the way Europeans, Muslims, and the Jews speak. We cannot. Linguistically, it's not possible. And that is why the British said Indians are immoral, because they didn't find any such sentences in our text. Does it mean we have no ethics? Of course not. What does it mean then? It means what we think ethics and morality today, what our JNU intellectuals and St. Stephen intellectuals and newspaper people write about, and so on, they're using English language without understanding what it means. You will not understand moral ought unless and until you do a deep study of Deontic logic. Then you see it as a formal concept, but you can't apply it to your actions. In your language, you can't. So you don't understand. And yet to come across an Indian who is able to understand properly an ethical text, including the best ethical thinkers India has produced, whether it is a Pratap Bhanu Mehta or somebody else. They don't understand. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. Brilliant people, intelligent people, nice people. But a language doesn't, because why doesn't a language allow it? That's not our experience. That's not how we talk about ethics. We talk in a different way about ethics. This moral ought, where does that come from? The God who is outside space and time. Following his commands is what it means to be ethical. Our gods, whatever the gods are not, they're all in this cosmos. They are not outside space and time. And they do not command us. Nobody commands. And that is why everybody found our gods very immoral. Imagine Krishna, yeah? 16,000 women. If you're scientifically minded, sit down and calculate. How many times should you sleep with a woman, same woman, 16,000. How many times should you sleep? How many orgasms? For how many days? You'll be shocked by the discovery. Oh my God. Is it possible? Krishna is a liar. Yeah. He's a thief. Steals butter. Tells lies to his mother. Have you eaten the butter, Krishna? I'll look at my mouth and gives Vishwarupa Darshana. So poor Yashoda is totally flipped. She doesn't know what the hell is going on. She has forgotten her question whether he stole butter or not. I also would be. I mean, what the hell? So our God, whoever it is, Shiva, Ishvara, Vishnu, Brahma is an embodiment. But who is Saraswati? These are our devatas. And how did they describe our devatas? Immoral. It's not that we didn't know that. You know how I was taught? Hey, this is how God's devas behave. So human beings should not imitate them. That's how I was taught. In this Semitic religion, with a God outside space-time, God is perfectly ethical, perfectly moral. Therefore, obeying his commandments is to be ethical and moral. That's the language of ethics and morality of the last 2,000 years, before after Aristotle and so on. But we use it. We write tracts on it. We write articles on it. We teach our children that in schools and colleges and universities. But we don't know what we're talking about. It is not possible to know that. What are we teaching students? Bakwas or Western ethics? This is colonial consciousness. Truth trumps knowledge. In us, truth is subordinated to knowledge. Choose what you want. Choose truth. You see what's happened to the world in the last 400 years. Even before that, in the medieval Europe as well. Truth, knowledge. You choose knowledge. Well, that's what Buddha tried to do. That's what Shankara tries to do. That's what the Upanishads try to do. A Veda means. not esoteric knowledge. People, there is no such thing as esoteric knowledge. Knowledge must be present, knowledge should be capable of being tested, knowledge must be capable of being understood. There can be no such thing as esoteric knowledge. Supramundane knowledge, not possible. If it's knowledge, it's not possible. There is no supramundane physics or esoteric physics. Even metaphysics is not esoteric. This is where we are. This, if we want to go further, break away from colonial consciousness. Some people have raised the question, how do you do it? There is only one possibility, which is what Indians discovered 3,000 years ago and continue for at least 1,500 years later. Further, how do you get out of this? Only through knowledge. That means follow the route which would lead you, which could lead you to knowledge, which would lead you to knowledge. Therefore, I began today's talk by saying, if you look back at the route I have taken, I said it is following the route that knowledge should take. And I said, if you want to judge what other people are saying, including me, use those criteria. Because if not salvation, that's left for special souls who obey the biblical God, not to us, moksha is not salvation in any sense of the word. So if you want to test what you're told about India, Indian culture, Indian people, not just them, because I said, asking a question about who is India, what it means to be, what it is to be an Indian, will give us a surprising answer by laying the foundation of social science. So, knowledge is the only possibility they have. Not just you and me and Indians, all of us, humankind, is the only route to break out of colonial consciousness. There are other aspects that he is raising. What about people who don't have English education and so on? That'll take us to a different aspect. That is namely colonial consciousness of the colonized. We'll talk about it if it is necessary, but first get the general picture. Colonial consciousness is ignorance preventing emergence of knowledge, truth parading as knowledge, and the only way out of it is through knowledge. Anybody wants to add anything here?
I just wanted to add another small element of the question that Srinivasji has raised. He has taken the example of Sringeri Matha, and these are what to say, pure form of transmission, etc. See, I can't comment about Sringeri Matha because I don't know about the Sringeri Pathshala. But I wanted to actually outline some general picture of the kind of ignorance that we have about what Islamic colonialism has done to us and what are its repercussions. And I would go back to one of the sort of less studied essays of Sheldon Pollock. So what Sheldon Pollock does is that he had a project on Indian knowledge systems. And he gets the survey of number of domains, starting from, various disciplines like Dharmashastra to Mimamsa to Jyotisha. He takes 8 different domains and he looks at the number of influential texts that have been produced between 10th century to 15th century and 15th century onwards. And it's interesting, in these 8 domains that he conducts the survey, there is hardly any significant text that comes, even in domains like Mimamsa, etc., for 500 years. There is absolute dark, no new text in these disciplines. In fact, he goes on to say, for example, people like Appaya Dikshita, when he comes back and picks up certain writing on Mimamsa, he had to start from where it was stopped at 10th century. So there is this question, what happened in that 500 years and why nothing has been produced in the domains that he has been sketching? I mean, now we have more information because some of the students who deal with Balu, for instance, they looked at the texts in the domain of Vyakarana. See, one of the important things that they were recognizing is between 10th century to 13th century, if you look at the texts of Vyakarana, the kind of issues, the kind of themes, the kind of arguments that comes, they're completely different. One could see the nature of the texts themselves being different. Not in Vyakarana, now they're coming up with more and example with this. So this is exactly the period where Islam had a huge impact on India. Now, one of the most important part that has happened for that period in time, and India certainly, Islamic colonialism has damaged the nature of transmission, and it also has brought in certain elements that Balu was just pointing out, that these new ways of talking about, say for example, the obsession towards. So suddenly we all now talk about Krupa as some positive term, and there is also another way of talking about, say, Satyanveshane comes into being by 16th century. People start talking about Satyanveshane. There is completely new way of talking by our ancestors by 15th, 16th century. 13th century it started emerging. So there is something extraordinary that has happened in the period of 500 years. And we seem to be absolutely ignorant. So when people respond to Balu, when he writes about Manu or anything else, they say, he has not taken into consideration the commentators. But there is a huge damage that was already beginning to emerge in that period that has not been noticed. So the quick summary of what I wanted to say is that even though one would want to say that there are things, for example, Vedapata has been transmitted, Ghana, Jata. I mean, there is some ways that some people has retained it. I mean, there has been some traditions which have been continuing. That does not necessarily guarantee that our traditions have been transmitting uninterrupted without any changes. The traditions in the same way that was existing, 1,000 years before. So this is something that we need to. You don't need to buy mystery. You have to just go and do a survey of the material available in front of us. Think about it very seriously. Automatically, it becomes glaringly visible. So that's what I wanted to add it up to the story of what Balu has just now said.
In a slightly lighter vein, but equally seriously. Think about this famous shloka of Manu. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat, satyam apriyam, priyam cha, nanatam bruyat, esha dharmam sanatan. Look at the first two sentences. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Strange. Whatever that priyam, leave it at that. But look at it. If you tell truth, in some sense it must be pleasing, not psychologically pleasing, not flattering. That's what Manu is talking about. But why is that important? Truth has a goal. Why tell truth is an important question in the Indian tradition. That's why he can say, na bruya satyam apriyam. That means, shut up. That's not what he's saying. Priyam cha nanatam bruya. That's just because somebody likes it, don't go lying, of course. But first part, satyam bruya, priyam bruya. But nobody has said that about jnana. As somebody was just making, nahi jnane na sadrisham. It comes in Gita. Meaning what? There's nothing that we can see like knowledge. Not truth, knowledge. Nothing like that. And that's why to this day, I was talking to some of my Sanskrit friends the other day. See if this thing will also appeal to you. Just for a moment, take away your moral revulsion or ethical revulsion about atyachara on women. Just forget that for a minute, just for a second. Okay. Now, you hear somebody saying there was atyachara on Lakshmi. Meaning, he just used the money to drink, to play, gamble. That's absolute atyachara on Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is called Chanchala. She sleeps with many men. Yeah, because she goes from, that's one of the properties of Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. So, say, you will never say to somebody who's, let's say, spending money or that crazy fellow, you don't say, you're doing atyachara to Lakshmi. You don't say that. All right? How about atyachara of Parvati? Actually, we don't know what it would mean. Atyachara of Parvati, what does it consist of? Don't know. You just don't know. But Begin with the smaller one. If you're brought up as an Indian, you're doing apachara to Saraswati. Oh, what? Suppose you go one step further. That is atyachara on Saraswati. You are absolutely shattered. Not because it's atyachara. Sri, Lakshmi, Parvati, Saraswati. Saraswati, even apachara we can't tolerate. Especially those who have been brought up. Go and ask those students who have been brought up in Gurukula, for example. The best way to make them feel terrible is you're doing apachara to Saraswati. They don't know what to do. They won't even use the word atyachara, but if you use it, it's the most horrible thing they can do. That is because what Saraswati is. She is the body of knowledge. That's why as children, we don't do it anymore in India, perhaps the way I was brought up. If by accident my feet touched a piece of paper or it stepped on newspaper, we do that. And I was taught that. You know, sometimes when I'm in India, I do that. And they say, what the hell am I doing? That's my whole thing. I've been brought up that way. But this respect, this love, this affection, this veneration is only for knowledge, nothing else. Not for wealth, not for political power, not for status, not for anything. That's why when we say that man is a jnani, we respect. Vidvamsa, I am not so sure. Pandita, you must be careful. That's why we also distinguish between a Pandita and a Guru. But point I want to make to you is simply this. This is what knowledge is in our culture. Not truth, knowledge. So look at your own experience. This is to relate to language, knowledge, and experience. Look at the way you talk, look at the way you've been brought up. And imagine, don't forget one thing when you think of Saraswati. Daughter of Brahma. And Brahma has an incestuous relationship to Saraswati. But plays absolutely no role. We know that. But it plays no role at all. Not because incest is a good thing in India. Father sleeping with the daughter is the best thing. Nobody says that. Nobody does. Well, not nobody does it. I'm sure there are some people do it. Oh, fine. But Saraswati, when you look at Saraswati, these are not the associations that are made, even though we know the story. No. You touch paper, you step on paper with your feet, with your foot. You do this. Sometimes you even go and touch the paper and do it. Hey, Saraswati, I say you can't step on her. That's how we used to talk. This is Saraswati. This is because it's knowledge. She's embodied of knowledge. Second, you can control Lakshmi if you're a very rich man. Vishnu can direct Lakshmi. And our stories, not just Vishnu, others. Parvati, the same thing. But what is forbidden, what is unthinkable in Indian tradition is that you can control Saraswati. You can have authority over Saraswati. Not possible. Not possible. Any other word is possible. This one, impossible. This is knowledge to us. Question for colonial consciousness is this. Why have we given this up so quickly, so easily? And what is it you're teaching when we teach our children in universities, which is a Jnana Mandira, allegedly? What do we teach? Jnana. I don't know if Jnana must teach Bhagavad Gita, yeah? Physics is Jnana also. So is mathematics, so is biology, so is genetics, and so on and so on and so on. This is India, this is our culture. And we are not there. This is what has been in some senses transmitted, so there's been only damage in transmission. It doesn't fully answer your question, Srinivas. These are all dimensions of what is colonial consciousness with respect to the West, with respect to us. both suffer from colonial consciousness.
So, Bala, this question took longer time spending than anticipated anyway. So
I'm
I
sorry.
think no, that's not a problem.
No, I'm
No,
not.
it's-
I'm not sorry. No.
Yes. So one of the question that has come, multiple people got confused because this Satya and Sat, they're getting confused.
Mhm.
Okay, so your comments on truth, suddenly they're shifting it on then Sat Chit Ananda, I mean, all these questions have come there. I think that's so. My suggestion is if you can just take that, and that would be part of the future direction where you're traveling. One dimension of the direction probably would. That's
Okay.
the only question that we can take probably, I guess.
Okay. Let me begin with a statement which I hear often in India. Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. It's normally translated as, well, whatever that sat, however it gets translated depends on the individual, that different people say different things about it. And normally what happens is, that is to show the pluralism of India because they say it allows multiple truths. Many truths in India. We don't have a single truth. It's absolute rubbish. There are no 1 billion truths or 10 billion truths. There's only one truth. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 in decimal arithmetic. The sum of angles of three angles of a triangle is 180 degrees in a two-dimensional space. And there is absolutely no way truth is different for different people. It's only if you're in a three-dimensional space or n-dimensional space that the sum of the three angles of a triangle is not 180 degrees. Not otherwise. In 2 dimensions, it's the same thing everywhere. Greece, India, and so on. You can't fly in carpet, magic carpets. There is gravitational force. If you want to counteract that, you need energy. And no carpet is going to give you that. It's a magical carpet. In other words, there are no 100 million truths, there's only one truth. Indian notion of truth is very robust. It has got only one notion of truth. Not 100, we are not relativists. We never were. So, ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti doesn't mean each has his own truths. No, it's not true. Truth is, for everyone, it's the same. But the sentence says something, no, it's not about truth. It's talking about sat. Ekam sat. Vipraha bahuda vadanti. They say all kinds of things. In multiple different ways. There's only one sat. Now, what exactly is this? Now, I don't enter into a deep Brahma Jignasa here. I mean, this is not the place to do that, though we should do that someday. See, Indians make a very, very, very strong distinction between real and existence. I'll explain to you very soon what I mean. I'm using English words. Real picks up thought. Existence is astitva, being there in multiple ways. Now, the West also, Western culture also, makes a distinction between the real and the existence. But they have a huge problem. Who? The Western culture. Why? Is it their God, biblical God, is also real? That is, he's outside. To them, real means being outside the time and space. He's not in this world. This world is a world of existence. He's not here. But God has to work in this world. God has to be effective in the world. God has to do this or that in the world. He does it. Apart from sending his son here, there are who did miracles, etc., etc. God works, as they say, in mysterious ways in this world. Unfortunately, this world has a following property. If some object, whichever the object is, has to work in this world, that is, have causal effect in this world, it must exist. Non-existent entities cannot have causal effect on this world. For example, if there are no ghosts, there is no way on earth ghosts are able to move objects in this world. Spirit, if it doesn't exist, it cannot do anything. So whatever works in this world, has effect in this world, must exist. And if it exists, it is one object amongst any number of other objects that exist in the world. Because God has to work in the world, God has to exist in the world as well. So there is a famous discussion, problem of immanence and transcendence of God. God is immanent in this world, meaning he exists in the world. He is transcendent, meaning he is beyond world, beyond space-time. Beyond world does not mean outside Earth, beyond cosmos. He does not exist. That's what it means. Outside space-time. So he is a transcendent, but he has to work in the world, he is immanent. So how can God be both transcendent and immanent? For millennia, they have been thinking about it, asking questions about it, because if God did not work in this world, God did not exist in the world, if God would not exist at all, oh my God, what happens to Christianity, Judaism, and Islam? It's catastrophe. But here is an interesting historical point. Whether God exists or not is a question that emerges, which is in Jacob 17th, 18th century France.
16th century.
No, it's late 17th, but mostly 18th century.
18th, okay.
Yeah.
First time the question of atheism, that is, does God exist or not, first time emerges in 18th century France, early 13th century, late 17th century. Until then, it's unthinkable to ask the question, does God exist? There is a famous proof called, there is a famous holy man called Saint Anselmus, Saint Anselm. He is supposed to have produced the first ontological proof for the existence of God. Ontology means things that exist in the world. So he is supposed to have developed a proof for the existence of God. And that's 13th century, 12th century. But if you go to read that book, it's not at all about existence of God. He doesn't ask the question, does God exist? But what he asked, this fantastic thing to discuss, I won't go there. But the point is, he didn't ask the question. He did not, he could not. Because till the 18th century, it never occurred to the 17th century, 18th century, it never occurred to anybody to ask the question, does God exist? There is a statement in the Bible. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. But as a fool, and nobody took him seriously. Only a fool can say that, nobody says it. Because God exists obviously. Look at the nature, look at human beings, God exists. So only 17th, 18th century discussion begins about the existence of God. Until then, it is very clear God was real, God was the truth, and so on. But a problem begins because God has also to exist here. He must be an object in the universe. Therefore, you should ask the question, does God exist? Is there a God? If you go to Amazon, type existence to find all the books on existence. 99% is about God's existence, not about what existence means. Does God exist? So existence question, in fact, is discussed about whether or not God exists. That's the most important question. Why does this happen? But once God is one object like any other, this is a coffee cup, this is God. Are two objects. So God must be limited, God must be finite, God must have properties. No, that's not possible because God is real, he is outside cosmos. But if he exists here, my friend, unfortunately, he must have these properties. So this is a very huge problem in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. What Indians did, they also make the distinction between real and existence. But they keep it completely separate. What level? It's almost mind-blowing when you realize the consistency of this way of thinking 3,000 years ago, which they sustained for at least 1,500 years. They said real and existence are different, meaning what? What is real cannot exist. What exists is not real. So how did they make that distinction? Well, what language did they use? Well, they said the real, that is para. The unreal existing, that is apara. Between para and apara, para doesn't exist, apara exists. But here is an interesting thing, because we are Indians, aren't we? They say, they are thought like this. Unlike the Semitic religions, we believe that the only thing that is there, exists, is a cosmos. Outside there's nothing, absolutely nothing. So if you want anything, if you want to access anything, you want to get anything, it must be in apara. It must be in Iha. It must be in Vishwa. It must be in Jagat. It must be there. Otherwise we can't access it, right? If an object is outside time and space, what's the point? Might be there, might not be there, what they have. Doesn't do anything. So they said they didn't put para outside time and space. But it does not exist. But they said human beings access para. I'll explain. I won't make philosophical. I'll give you a very, very concrete example. That means we can access it. If we can access it, we can only access it in apara, in iha. So they did not say apara also exists in para, then it will become another object. No, no, no. Para is accessible in apara. You can access, you can have entry, you can experience what does not exist in apara. Now this is nothing mysterious about it. Look at the language first. From our language and how we do it also, in every culture does this. You see someone and you say, I hope you know a little bit of Sanskrit. He has got virtues. He has got tejas. Yeah, tejas. In our word, not English tejas. Look at him. The tejas radiates. Look at the word tejas. Now, it is not a physical property. It's not a psychological property. Yeah. But you are accessing it. If it is a physical property, I should be able to say what it is, whether we know, whether can investigate or not. Psychological property, you could say that. No, virtues, tejas. Or in English, oh, he's a charismatic man. All right. What is his charisma? It's not a property of the body. It's not a property of his personality. But you see it, you experience it. And you say the person has charisma. You know, when that guy comes into the meeting, you can sense his presence. Presence is not psychological, biological, physiological, but you sense it. What are you sensing? Sensing what is not there. It does not mean it's imaginative. It's something that can be accessed. It can even go to even more trivial level. You go to Starbucks or Coffee Day, whatever. I have said it a number of times. Today, fantastic how coffee tasted. It was the same coffee. It's the same tongue. It's the same person, same hour. But today, coffee, tasted. That is the taste. Tomorrow it does not. Yesterday it did not. So what exactly is it? You taste it. You tasted something that didn't exist, but you had access. You go to a house. This house is a character. It has character. House having a character? Yes. We experience it. We sense it. We access it. In other words, infinite number of ways in our daily language, we talk about accessing things that do not exist. That does not mean we're hallucinating, does not mean we're imagining. No, we can access things that have no existence. So Indian said, that is para. Para is that. What? Accessing what does not exist. Human beings do so everywhere. And where is para? Where can you access it? In apara, of course, in Iha. That's the only place we have. That's the only thing we know. This is where you're born, this is where we die. Everything should happen here. So, when para is accessible in apara, para is not apara. So, sat, when we say, is para. Now, what the hell does that mean? If it does not exist, it doesn't have properties. Guna cannot have it. If it doesn't have properties, you can't distinguish it between two things. To distinguish any one object from another, they must differ in properties. If it's para, there are no properties, you can't distinguish. But if you want to talk about it, how do you say? Ekam sat. There is nothing else like sat. That's not mean there's one. Because mathematically, if there's one, there is two, if there's two, if there's three. Weak mathematical and strong mathematical induction. You can't say one and stop there. No, if there's one, there is two, if there's two, if there's three. So ekam sat does not mean there's only one sat. There is nothing like sat. So ekam sat. There is nothing like para. There is only one para. Okay, I'm not counting, but there is nothing else like that. Ekam sat. Vipraha bahuda vadanti. What is it? How do you talk about it? This para. Well, why is this a problem? Because you see, your language is language of properties, forces, events, and so on. In other words, the language of existence. They can only talk about existence. Because even when you talk about non-existent entities, we talk about entities that could have existed but do not exist. Our language, there's a full science, ordinary language, whichever language, is language of existence. So, I can talk in different ways, using different languages of existence about the para. Again, it's not something, you can also make true claims about para. Very simple. If I say, para is blue, Sarika says para is yellow. Both are true. Both are true. There are different ways of talking about it. But so, or you can go the other way. Neti argument. Para is neither long nor short. Para is neither big, is neither fat nor thin. Para is smaller than the atom but bigger than the cosmos. And so on and so on and so on. In other words, you can say para is everything that does not have the properties of apara. Neti. It's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. They're all true statements about para, true. So they're not bullshit. No, they're not. They give you knowledge. Yes, they do. What knowledge do they give? They say, look, para is not para. To make you understand that. So, ekam sat. It means stairs. There's nothing stupid. There's no multiple truths. And that's why the story about blind men, 10 blind men and the elephant. Same thing. You can describe it in different ways, using different ways of talking about existence. But para is not that. Same thing. Atma Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Go wherever you want. None of them violate this condition. That is, para does not exist, but para is accessible in apara. So Indians were extraordinarily consistent. That is why, and look at the strange thing. Atma is a para, which means what? It does not act in the world. It cannot. What is supposed to be the property of Atma? He is not an agent. Atma doesn't do anything. If it was in existence in the world, you don't have objects that don't do anything, you just kick them out. That's what we in science do. What is this object, what is this particle doing? Nothing. We just postulate it, kick it off. You can't have objects that don't do anything, just hang around doing what? Nothing. And that's not possible. Nature doesn't allow that. We say, we just kick it off. Indians don't say that. Atma is hanging around somewhere doing nothing. No. Atma does not exist, but it's real. Atma is accessible, but does not exist. So, Atma is not an agent. Of course, it cannot be. Consistency, my friends, that's what Indian thought has. Nobody has said Atma functions. They say Atma is a Sakshi. It's a way of describing. But to be a Sakshi, you need eyes. You need brain to process the information. That means it must have a body. Come on. Nobody. So Atma Sakshi, so it plays the role of a Sakshi, etc. These are strategies of accessing Atma. When you see it, when you're interacting, don't you feel somebody is watching from behind? Yeah, that's Atma. Does not mean Atma is watching it, I guess. It's a way of accessing Atma. In other words, wherever you go, whether it's Advaitins, Vishishtadvaitins, you go wherever you want. Our thinking. And it's about human beings. It's not some deep metaphysical subject. No. It's our experience. Para, apara is our experience, daily experience. It's talking about that. And it says, how is it possible for us human beings, using these experiences in the world, to become happy, have ananda, however you want to formulate. Is.
To give you some rest, because you have been continuously talking,
I
will add some small interventions here of the consequences of what till now Balu narrated. Now, so in a way, if you take that as para, so this Sat, Gnana, etc., they will all be part of para. That's first. And when we talk about Satya, etc., in the language, they are property of the sentences. They talk about the things in this world. Now, if you look from this way, what Balu started off saying that, in Christianity also they make this distinction, but they have this problem that God is outside and he has to come and do something in this world, etc. We have separated it. Now, we also actually have made it beautifully understandable in the sense that now Saraswati is always known as Paradevata. So, so she doesn't come down. And when we have to bring our God somewhere because they can't exist, the only way that you do is you call it Aparavatara. So you bring, for example, Vishnu to Apara. So Rama is Aparavatara. So therefore he has all the properties, like he has birth and he has death. Because everything that an object that exists in the world have is beginning and an end, birth and death, etc. All these things that come. So therefore Rama was born here, he died, Krishna was born here. He gets all the properties of Aparavatara. But what is more fascinating is all these Aparavataras that we have, they are impossible creatures. I mean, it is impossible to see anybody acting in this world the way Krishna has done it. Or you can't have somebody like Narasimha born in this world. I mean, you cannot. In a way, what Balu was describing is that even if you want to talk about, there is a way. So this Apara gives reference for people to look at Para. So you can't have this high, a serious, textual understanding of what is this Sat, what is this Brahman, etc. But if you look at this Apara, so it is recognizable, Narasimha is recognizable, and Rama is recognizable, Krishna is recognizable, but there are also, you can't have such people. You can't have such creatures in the world. So therefore you know that they don't exist. In the sense they're para. So in a way, Balu's reference in the text that he has given, that when Indians have actually communicated this knowledge to people, there is no dumbing down, there is no vulgarization of science. In fact, they made it that even the most ordinary people could pick this thread and understand. So when somebody is using, Rama, Krishna, Puja, etc., they know, this is God. I mean, such a creature is not possible in this world. I can't be that. So in a way, they are pointing towards para, but which doesn't exist. So in a way, these ideas have been transmitted to ordinary people in in a way that is comprehensible without sort of cutting down the knowledge, without simplifying it, but it has been given in a way that people can follow it. Have I said it correctly, Balu? I mean, to
Yeah, but I just should, yeah, absolutely. But let me just add one or two things so it becomes even more clear. It is in the form of a question. Okay. I have 15, 20 minutes. I've spoken about para, apara, all these things. You say, I mean, it's very difficult to understand it. It's all philosophical and abstract. Absolutely right. And now the introduction of what does it mean to be Indian? If you want to transmit this knowledge to a peasant who doesn't know anything about physics, logic, metaphysics, and so on, how do you communicate this para apara to that guy? And that is what Chaitra was talking about. Take someone like Narasimha. There is no way on earth, on this earth that we know, or maybe somewhere else, extraterrestrial beings, alien and so on, forget that. On earth, you cannot have a creature which is half lion, half man, and live. Not possible. Biology also says it, our experience also says it. It cannot exist. Cannot exist. But Narasimha is, we say, is an avatar, not apara. Apara is how Vishnu comes. As an avatar of Vishnu, we say, not an apara. And look at how it is, Prahlada and his father. Where is he? Everywhere. Everywhere, yeah. Is he in this pillar? Yes. Break the pillar. What does it mean? It doesn't have one place. A para is everywhere, yes, of course. It has to be. Why? Because it's para. It's not confined to one object. So it must be here, it must be there. It must also be in the pillar or outside the pillar. It doesn't matter. What comes out? Half man, half lion. Cannot exist. Of course, para does not exist. But by seeing it as Narasimha, you give access to a person of what para is in a para. Without using the word para, without using the word apara. And just one more thing, look at all our statues in temples. And any number of people who ask me why we have such ugly statues, 4 arms and so on and so on. And all kinds of stories have been spreading around for that. Now, fine. Everybody has his own story. Here is my answer to that question on the basis of what I've said. Look, if you are a consistent thinker, like Indians were, you must have some way of identifying something as para. Some way. Like, for example, Krishna, he can take any form. If there's blue and a peacock thing and a flute, we know it's Krishna. We have some confusion between Parvati and Lakshmi. Parvati or Lakshmi, I'm not very sure. But Saraswati, you know, because he's sitting with Veena, no problem. So Ishvara or Ganesha easily identifiable creatures. We know they're all Paradevatas. So what did they do? And that is why the most illiterate peasant in India go to their local temples. Most of the times, though there are some exceptions here and there, all their bloody this thing have 4 arms. 4 arms is impossible on earth. 4 arms. It's not para. It is para. So I can give 4 arms. So that's why we have to give 4 arms. And I was telling my Sanskrit friends the other day, I'm sure you'll have noticed this. Ganesha has 4 arms, right? Look at Balagangadhara. He's only got 2 arms. None of you have ever asked the question, how is it possible? Balagangadhara has got only 2, but when he grows up, he gets 4. None of us ask it. But we recognize Balagangadhara. We have no problems with it. And we recognize Ganesha. 2 arms, 4 arms. Why do we not bother about it? Because it's not apara. You say, what the hell are you? It's para. It's a way of recognizing, accessing para. It doesn't matter whether Balagangadhara has already got 2 and Vruddha Ganesha, he doesn't go Vruddha, he remains Bala, but even though he's got 4. That is why his stomach gets blown out, and he uses a snake and runs on a mouse. Impossible things, all of them, of course. They have to be, because if it was not, they would exist in Apara, then they are not Paradevatas. This is how a culture transmitted knowledge without dumbing it down. This, what you and I are discussing abstractly, Apara peasant knows it. In India, illiterate peasant, because his temple goddess has got 4 arms. Are you not amazed at this thinking process behind? How in God's name did they think about this? How in God's name did they transmit it? How in God's name did they take roots in Indian culture? Incredible consistency. The only place where I have seen it is in logic and in some mathematics and some theories in physics. Nowhere else, except this, of course. This consistency. 3,000 years ago. My God, where did they discuss? How did they do research? But they must have done it, because this is impossible without research. These are the results of research. This, my friends, is the Indian culture. And this is what is in danger. And this is what we, you and me, together, we can access it again, because you're understanding it. This is what it means to use 21st century language to understand. And we develop it, not only for us, for the whole of the world, because we need it. We need it very, very bad. That is the prospect. This is the prospect. You had the retrospect. This is the prospect, root. And it is the root of knowledge. I rest.
So, I mean, I think we can stop at this point in time, because now from here we can't take any new thread. It is impossible to take any more new thread, because it takes a lot of time to get into any of this new thread. See, but one thing that I wanted to re-emphasize in the way that we have summarized it from morning to till now. So the number of questions that Srinivas had sent us, I mean, almost 85% of those questions have been addressed. There is one segment of the question which we could not take up because of the limitation of the time. And as questions came, we took different routes. But this is precisely where the research program is heading. There are a large number of people in India and Europe participating in it, all kind of people. There are Muslims, there are Christians, and people of different kinds, Sanskrit, all disciplines, they participated. This is where we are going ahead. So we want people who have been here with us from morning to join this process of thinking together, because as Balu pointed out, this is the question of this incredible culture, which is a danger today. So we need to think about it seriously. So with this, Srinivas ji.
Chaitra-ji, I thought we were going to go on till 6:15. So, even that little bit of time that is left, I don't want to let it go. I'd like to continue listening to Balu, of course, beyond that as well. But, I know you said that it's difficult to start a new thread. But a lot of, I don't know if this is appropriate, because the kind of a subject that I'm broaching, I don't know if it is fit to be discussed after hearing Professor Balu speak the way he did. But is it possible to just touch upon the concept of Varna Sankara? That's my request.
All right. Look. We are writing a book on it. It will be ready by June, July. On Varna and Varna Sankara. There are 3 articles written 8 months ago. Since then, thought has gone much further on Manu, Varna Sankara in Gita. Yeah. So, if you promise me not to distribute it, because much has changed, so that has to go further. It will become part of the book that's going to be written. If you want it, I can send those 3 articles. Remember, written 8-9 months ago. Since then, thoughts have evolved. Nothing. The crucial ideas have not changed. There we address, it is about Varna Sankara, especially about 2 shlokas from Manu, 1 shloka from Gita. If you want a discussion about it, I'll send those articles to you. But not here. I mean, people want to go home here. No?
Yeah,
I promise you, if you want it, I will send, in next half an hour you will have it. It's ready. But the book is getting written, it's about 90% written. It's going to look at what Varna is, what Varna Sankara is, and it's a hypothesis that can be tested. Not by going to text and finding out the meaning of this or that word in this world today.
No, but people who wanted to sort of get a glimpse of what it is, so we had done a year back or so a workshop in Bangalore. So part of the ROE Research Foundation, How to Read Indian Text, there are 7-part videos. And there is one set of video which actually sort of sketches the outline of Varna Sankara, but this was probably 1.5 years back or so. Ideas have evolved further, but the point is you will get a glimpse of which direction, how do we read it? I mean, also the Yagnavalkya Maitreyi discussion, I mean, all these things have been dealt with, and there is also a segment of the video which talks about how do we read the parts of idea of Varna Sankara within Gita and some other issues. One could refer to them so that gives you some initial glimpse. Till this book comes out, there is some food to think. So that is what we can
Isn't
say.
it Kannada Chaitra?
Ah, yes, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Only Kannadigas can access it, you see.
Okay. So you have to subtitle it, Chaitraji. You have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we'll get it done. Probably after lockdown, we will get it done.
Okay. The other question
There are people who want it, who ask addresses, etc. Contact Srinivas. He'll take care of it, or contact Chaitra.
Yeah. The other question I was going to ask, and I was hoping probably would be broached during the discussion here, was about the research your group is doing on aspects which relate to so-called religious freedom, the Sabarimala judgment issue, the issue of constitutional morality, right, and the history of the Constitution writing itself. I have read Anil Rao's master's thesis, and it was brilliant. I was telling Chaitra ji that I was going to do an interview because I thought the way he presented his ideas, I have not seen anybody else do it like that. And Chaitra ji told me that he has done it with the guidance from Professor Jacob de Roer. So is it possible to sketch a little bit about what is happening in that direction? I know we just have a few minutes left, but so just to get a feel for what's happening, that's the only reason I'm asking.
Well, I'm tempted to give the same kind of answer. We're working on a book which will come out hopefully or will be ready next year. And it's, again, very difficult to begin to summarize anything about it. So my suggestion would be, if people want to know about this, that they read Anil's thesis for the time being. Because I think I wouldn't be able to sum it up in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I don't think it's appropriate to do that. So I suggest people, as a kind of appetizer or teaser, they read Anil's thesis, knowing that next year we'll work on a book on this theme.
But the book is going to come out on Indian Constitution, not on constitutional morality. It'll be shot down. But on Indian Constitution, reflections on it. There'll be something coming out on political, comparative political thought. There'll be, so I mean, the research group is going to produce, in the course of hopefully next 2 years, quite a lot of this material will come out. Some for meant for academics, some meant for non-academics. But these are all on the, not just plans, concrete work is going on about these things. On literature, for example, Arohi students are working doing really wonderful things on literature and relationship to colonial consciousness and so on. So different kinds of research, they'll start flowing. But don't ask for summary, Srinivas. You know why? This is my favorite example. You know Kalakai Unde? You know what it means? You know, I have this, you're a Telugu man. Are you Telugu?
Yeah, he's Telugu.
Yes, I am Telugu.
You have it, yeah. With groundnuts, you make round balls which are sweet with jaggery. Oh, well, you have it.
Yeah.
You didn't have it because every time I go to Andhra Pradesh, I eat nippat and kalakai. So there's
very difficult to break them. Yeah.
Yeah, a little tough.
Wait. Yeah. And that is where I was coming to. So if a baby of 6 months, which doesn't have teeth, wants kalakai unde, what do? You say, just wait until they get good teeth and you have used Binaka toothpaste to make it strong. Only then I'll give you kalakai unde. So let's just wait, you'll get it. But you all want it now, not possible. You can't eat it when you're 6 months old. Definitely not nippat also. It's not possible to bite. Okay, you will get it.
Okay, so no, I mean this has been fantastic, and we knew that it is impossible to give a deep understanding of everything you've been doing for the past 40 years, and it's not just the time, but the number of people, the various thinkers and researchers that you have, who are pursuing this program across the world. It's impossible to summarize in a short duration like this, breaking for lunch in between and even trying to not get enough time for that. So the primary purpose of this is just to get a glimpse, probably through an example, so that people can get a taste for it, rather than see all of it, like in the Vivaha Bhojanambu. I don't know, you have seen that song.
Yes.
Maya Bajar, Kannada cinema is
Vivaha Bhojanambu, Vichitra Tailamambu.
Yeah. So we can. So instead of seeing all of that, probably you have just given a taste of one laddu, and then we can guess how all the other eatables are going to taste. So this is only to encourage people to pursue on their own, taking this as clues for a new kind of a thinking, understand the complexities involved in things which they thought is straightforward, right? And also get an opportunity to pursue the specific program, research program that is being pursued by Professor Balagangadhara's students, and many of them are now professors and have different centers that have been established in Europe, in India. I've had a chance to attend one workshop conducted by Duncan Jalki and Sufia Patan in Ujire, and it was an eye-opening experience for me. They do it every summer, so and I'm sure Arohi Foundation also does it in India. So for those people in India, I definitely encourage them to look up these two organizations, contact them, and get an opportunity, create an opportunity for themselves to pursue this line of thinking. Harikiran Garu, are you still here with us, or are you? Maybe he's not. Okay.
Oh, he's there.
Yeah.
Harikiran Garu. Yeah. So I mean, I don't want this to end, but I guess, I can't keep speaking like this. Maybe if you also say a few words and, thank, and probably then we'll have to hit that leave meeting button.
Actually, Balu, I was just so fascinated in between. I was just so transfixed with how you were talking. And I just now tweeted saying that today the Indic intellectual dark web is born. And there is a new movement in the US of all intellectuals who are anti this leftists and social justice warriors. Rubin and Jordan Peterson, Douglas Murray, some of all the people who are against this leftist movement, and Eric Weinstein has given this name as intellectual dark web. So there is a momentum building against this postmodernism and postcolonialism and all these theories that the leftists are throwing against us. So I think after today, with more than 200 people listening throughout, I think the critical mass of people who are reversing and who are looking at the way you're looking at things, I think I would feel that we should continue and continue to engage and take this discussion and give this moment. And I had spoken to Chaitra ji about deepening our engagement, and I'm very honored that you have accepted that. And I really look forward to taking that forward in terms of the research and legacy partnership that I had mentioned to Chaitra. That's for me the crest jewel for me personally, and this journey of deepening engagement with venerable scholars like you, what we call as Boni. You're the first scholar I'm doing this, so I'm really, really grateful, and I will interact with Chaitra ji and take this forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Before we end, just one word from Sarika, Jacob, Sarah, Chaitra. I really would like to thank you, Harikiran. It's a wonderful opportunity you've given, not just for this conference, and for your proposal. And I really think we should work whatever we can, we contribute. We have a beautiful state. If you don't know about, squirrels are supposed to help Rama build Ram Setu. Yeah, we call them Alili squirrel. Seva, you understand. So that's all we can do, all of us. And so you're one more squirrel, I'm one more squirrel. We'll go and carry 2 small stones. Fine, that's all we can do. That's all we can do. But let's work together. Let's carry it forward. And thank you very, very much for I hope what's going to happen, and for what has happened, for the retrospective. And let's hope one day our prospective will become the retrospective.
Yes.
If you can live that long, that would be wonderful. But then I'm going to contact Yama and Ganesha, phone them a little bit and find out it's possible to come to an arrangement about it. Doubt it, because they don't have 5G there as yet. So when it comes, we'll see. All right?
We can take some help.
Thank you very much for all of you, and for the people whose faces I have not seen. But then try and contain your shock of seeing my face. It's not exactly, it's what I call the missing link between the human beings and the ape. I'm somewhere there. And today Harikiran decided to join me. First I said no, but I'm now willing. 2 missing links will prove that biology is wrong. 1 missing link, you can say something. So we have 2 of us. So, thank you very much.
Yeah. Chaitra ji, thank you. Tara ji, Sarika ji, Jacob ji, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.